beautiful details, including the cat hair. That could be a beautiful detail for you too. Layering is arguably the most important styling hack or styling element that we can use for the fall or any transitional season. So today I wanted to talk about layering from the perspective of elements of style and not necessarily layering tips that are garment specific, like wearing a turtleneck under a dress or that kind of thing. I really think that once we start to see our closet from the lens of elements of style, things like playing with proportion and volume and texture and silhouette, then we can really start to see our clothes and our closet as tools that we can use to express ourselves and our creativity and just our own personal style. This, I find, really helps us to decouple consumption from personal style, so that's what I'm going to talk about today. Today's sponsor is a great example of slow fashion values like this. A big thank you to my friends over at Nordgreen, a Danish watch company that I've been working with since the beginning of time, otherwise known as the beginning of my channel. The fact that I can still find some of their earliest designs from our first collaboration in 2018 on their website today is a testament to their commitment to unhurried luxury and very timeless and classic pieces. They keep their offerings very well edited to ensure that they don't overproduce, and I love seeing anything that shows a commitment to longevity, especially when it comes to product offerings. My two favorite watches that I wear almost exclusively are the White Face Philosopher with the two-tone 5-link chain strap, and then the White Native with the leather strap. And that actually comes with an interchangeable sort of mesh chain strap as well. Both of these are either 32 to 36 millimeter faces, so they are a little bit larger. You'll see these styled throughout today's video, along with the layering tips as well. Nordgreen has a refurbished watch program, which I love. Anything circular, secondhand is fantastic. FSC certified packaging and a really great giving back program. So every watch that you receive comes with a code, and then you can choose whether you want a portion of the sale to go to health, education, or environmental initiatives. If you've already purchased a watch, the code never expires. And if you are interested in just adding a watch to your collection, got a gap in your accessories collection, I do have a discount code. I will leave it for you in the description box below, as well as some more information about Nordgreen so you can get to know the brand a little bit better. As always, I do hope my sponsored content introduces you to a brand that resonates with your values and also your aesthetics. Thank you as always for watching, and thanks Nordgreen for your support. Okay, the first element that I think is most pertinent when it comes to layering for the fall and winter is varying your weights. So this primarily is important when it comes to your knitwear. I think having a variety of different weights of knitwear and different fits of knitwear is so important for layering. I'm starting with the base, this super fitted and also very lightweight base, okay? This is merino, it's got a little bit of stretch. These kinds of pieces, the ones that are fitted and lightweight, you probably want to get them in something like a merino or maybe even a cashmere if you live in a really cold climate, because they're natural, they're the first layer that fits to your body, so you're gonna want them to be like the most breathable, and it's gonna work under all of the different other weights. Your next weight that you're gonna wanna layer with is something that's like a medium weight. This is a 100% cashmere sweater. It's a little bit more of like a boyfriend fit. This is actually a men's sweater. See how this sort of medium weight falls perfectly over this one? And all you've got going on here are two layers, and yet having these two different weights in your closet has created a completely different look just by layering these. So not only are we looking at, you know, varying these different weights to create dimension and a little bit of texture, but it's also just really helpful with layering. What I especially love about mixing two weights that are sort of close to each other, so a medium weight and a really fine or lightweight, you know, if you don't feel like actually wearing this medium weight one, it's not so bulky and cumbersome if you want to just like take it off and wrap it around your shoulders. You know what I mean? This is a lot more difficult to do if you have one of these big, cozy, bulky sweaters. If you are in a situation where you know you're gonna maybe want to take off a layer or two, then try and keep your weights close together, as in like like don't go with a lightweight and then a super heavy weight. Only if you think you're gonna like take them off. I find that the heavier weight knits, something like this with like a really prominent gauge and that is just like a heavier weighted fabric, these typically stand better on their own. So they're, I would say, less versatile for layering, but in terms of making a visual impact, they're pretty solid. This is like a very low effort but high visual impact piece because it's got the heftier silhouette. It clearly has more visual weight and heft to it simply because of the weight of the knit itself. And I love the way like the chunkier watch and accessories work with this kind of thing. And then I would go for like simpler accessories if you've got all those other layers. You've heard this next tip before, and that is playing with texture. So this is a little bit different from playing with the different knitted weights, simply because when you look at different weights of sweaters, I think that has a lot more functionality to it. We're looking a lot more at temperature and how to regulate your temperature throughout the day. Whereas when you're playing with texture, it's more about the aesthetic and the visual appeal. So here I've got my base again. This is like a nice smooth matte merino. But if I was looking for some interesting texture play, I would grab a sweater that has a lot of different, like see how we've got like this ribbing here. It's this like heather gray or marled knit. If you're someone who likes the sort of monochrome palette, or if you're just like me and black is your hero color, you could go with something in the same color, but then make sure you see how you've got like all these beautiful details, including the cat hair. That could be a beautiful detail for you too. But you see how it's got like that ribbing effect. So if you are gonna go with something monochrome, here not only are we varying weights, but we're also varying the texture. So you can vary texture with the fabrics that you're looking at, but you can also do it with accessories. This is a really fun place to talk about playing with texture. So here we're adding a little bit of texture with the croc print on the belt. Here's where I like to mix metals and play with texture with our watches. So I've got my metal watch here, but I can add to this. So here I've added some really fun and interesting textures with a more like organic sort of hammered looking bracelet, still in silver, and this little beaded bracelet that was given to me by my friend's little girl. She's so cute. But I actually love the juxtaposition in these textures. You know, we've got something so sleek, structured, metallic, and even here, like really high shine, paired with these little like plastic clear beads. I think it's hilarious and I think it's adorable. And I think it adds so much personality to something that could be so basic. Do I care that I've got like some shine metal here, shine here, some croc print, plastic beads? No, because like, look at the rest of my outfit. It's so basic, okay? So adding something like this kind of fun texture is out of place, it's unexpected, and I do think this counts as layering. Even though it can seem so simple and small, it is pretty high impact. I'm gonna show you something else. Okay, here's another really good example of layering with accessories that I absolutely love. A little less playful and a little bit more refined. I've got these pearls and then like a delicate metallic chain paired with leather. So as simple as this might seem, you know, just like, okay, it's a watch with a couple bracelets. I really do again think that this combination, particularly with the pearl and the delicate chain and the leather, especially in brown, I really feel as though this lightens up all of this black. I swapped out my black belt for the brown one so that the brown feels a little bit more deliberate, a little bit more coordinated. Is it necessary? Absolutely not, but kind of cool nonetheless. Do we care that the browns don't like super match? No, we don't, okay? Nobody's looking that closely at us. I am totally cool when my neutrals don't match. I think it adds like some realness to the look, and plus these things aren't so close to each other that it's jarring or like not beautiful for the eye to look at, okay? It still makes the association successfully, in my opinion. Another big one when it comes to layering and fall is playing with your proportions. The easiest way to incorporate proportion play is through your coats and your jackets. This is a season where we are usually wearing some sort of heavier topper or coat. So I'm just gonna show you what playing with your different proportions of coats can do to make your look feel more interesting when it comes to layers. I'm just gonna take the two sort of biggest contrasts here. We've got a coat that is a little bit oversized. It's got this great kind of cocoon button shape, and it's also 3/4 length. I actually think this length is pretty cool, even though I've got a crop, because the proportion of my ankle of my boot coming up and disappearing under the hem still gives me length. So this I think works really well. But do you see how the longer sort of cocoon jacket over this crop length, it gives a different vibe. It gives something a little bit more like cozy and casual, in contrast to a jacket that is a little bit, perhaps, let's say, more sporty. Okay, now look what's happening. We have literally the exact same base, the exact same, you know, high waist, cropped hem, boot disappearing under the hem, and yet we've swapped out the jacket for something cropped, boxy, less voluminous, a lot more tailored, and look at how completely different the outfit feels. And all we've done is change the proportion of the top layer. What I think is really important here is that it's not so much about, oh, swapping out a cocoon coat for a moto coat. That's not it at all. We might not have these in our coat repertoires. Well, what is important is swapping out the oversized, longer proportion to something that is cropped and tailored. So not only does it change the visual and how we're seeing the figure being broken up and the silhouette, we're also changing the vibe of the look completely. This feels sharper, more focused, more edgy, whereas this was a lot cozier and laid back. The next element that I think is really important is thinking about dimension and depth. So when you're thinking of adding texture, or particularly when you're looking at the different weights of your knitwear, remembering that you want your outfit to have depth in the layers is really important as well. You can achieve this by simply making your layers look and feel more deliberate through styling tweaks. Let me show you. So if I were to layer this sweater over this turtleneck right now, we're already kind of winning in the depth department because my turtleneck has this little fine collar, so it's automatically gonna make itself known and feel more interesting because this is a crew neck. So think of how your collars are interacting. Even if you live in a warmer climate and you just wanna layer like a basic tee underneath a crew neck or underneath a V-neck, really think about whether you've got like a bit more of a higher contrast or at least some sort of texture play going on with the collars. It feels more deliberate when the collars are kind of playing with each other. But the other thing that I love to do personally is you can always give the little sweater a tuck, especially if you've got a texture happening here with the belt. But I always like to show the sleeve underneath and then scrunch up whatever the top layer is. I do this all the time. I do this whether we're looking at 2 layers like this, whether we're looking at, you know, a blouse under a jacket. I'm always scrunching the sleeves up so that the whole thing feels a little bit more deliberate. You know, like now we're seeing like, ooh, this is cool. There's a little bit of contrast. There's some texture play. We can appreciate all of the other elements more because we're adding depth. We're restyling the pieces, these basic pieces, and rather than just throwing them on one on top of the other, we're just zhuzhing them up a little bit so it feels more deliberate, and this can add dimension and depth. And I think that's a pretty solid segue into the last element of style that I think is a culmination of all of these other elements. Simply by changing up the texture, the proportion, and remembering about things like dimension in your look, you can completely change the vibe of an outfit. And this is a really beautiful thing because we often tend to dress as our mood dictates in the morning, or depending on what sort of functions we have to get done through the day. So the vibe of your look is really informed by all of these other elements. I've shown that with the sporty versus like voluminous jacket. I think we demonstrated that through using more delicate sort of bracelets and layering accessories versus ones that are a little bit more chunky and playful. All of these things come into that. So depending if you want to start with your sort of overall vibe and reverse engineer all your layering techniques from there, or you pick a layering technique that you want to prioritize and you kind of see what vibe comes out with. I think this is like completely dependent on your creative process, but I do hope that all of those different elements come into play for you and you come up with some really cool ways to layer this season. So that is what I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. If you learned something new, hit subscribe if you haven't already. Don't forget, I do have that discount code for you with Nordgreen if you are looking to add a watch to your collection. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, a wonderful rest of your week. See you in the next fashion video. Ciao.